We're going to solve these equations, and we're going to use a method called substitution. And we want to use this method is when you have a letter by itself. So if you look at this first equation, we have y by itself equaling something. When we have that, we can take what it equals to and substitute in the other equation where y is. So I can take my 3x plus, and now because y is 2x plus 1, I can substitute the 2x plus 1 where the y is. There's my substitution, equals a negative 9. And now when I solve this equation, that means I combine my like terms, so that's 5x plus 1 equals negative 9. And I go through the process of substituting, or solving. I get 5x equals a negative 10, and divide by 5, x equals a negative 2. So I now know what x equals. So what I want to be able to do is then substitute this back into the equation and solve. So y equals 2 times a negative 2. I'm substituting back in. So you can see why it's called the substitution method, because we're just substituting an equation or number into our problem, and this gives us a negative 4 plus 1, and y equals a negative 3. And now we have our answer to this system. Sometimes to use the substitution, we have to put a letter by itself. So if I take this equation and move the 2y over, it becomes a negative. I now have a letter by itself that I could substitute for the letter x. So if I look over here, I'm going to put that problem in for the x. So once I put it in for the x, this is what it looks like. And now I have to distribute, which gives me a negative 6y minus 18, not minus 18, plus 18, minus 4y equals 28. So I go through my process. These two have to be combined, so it's a negative 10y plus 18 equals 28. And now I solve my equation by subtracting my 18, which gives me 10, and a negative 10y. And then I divide by a negative 10. And so I get my y as a negative 1. Once you find one letter, you go back up to the original equation that you have and substitute back in. So x would be a negative 2 times negative 1 plus 6. And when you do that, you get negative 3, so it'll be a positive 3. So we'll get our answer as the positive 3. So we're going to do the same thing when we have the letter by itself. That one has the letter by itself, so I'm going to substitute. So I'm going to put my negative 6x, but I'm going to substitute now for the y, the 2x minus 4 equals a negative 12. And when I go through this process, and I go plus 6x and a minus 12 equals a negative 12. When I combine my like terms, I get 0. So the x cancels out, but I get a negative 12 equals a negative 12. If this happens to be if true, then we have all real numbers. If that happens to be false, that means two different numbers, then it would be a no solution.